We are here for the Outdoorsman of the Year. That is a league that we have inside the HuntLeague app that accounts for all species, all methods of take. It includes points for community involvement, conservation, daily challenge points. So, whether you're training, shooting, investing in yourself or others related to kind of hunting, it encompasses everything inside the HuntLeague ecosystem. And at the end of a year, it goes January 1st to December 31st. We choose our 3 finalists up for this award. They'll get to go in front of a live judges panel here in just a few weeks. All right, Brandon Anderson, you are finalist number 1, jumping on the HuntLeague podcast, getting to share your story. You checked the invest box 137 times. You checked the train box 41, which is a little lacking compared to the other 2 guys in this. So that's your physical fitness, training, gym time. And I'm not going to get on to you because I know not everybody logs every time they work out. And then the third thing was your shooting. You shot 184 days last year. That's pretty dang impressive. Now, let me walk through each of those, and I want to ask you, what does invest mean to you, and what does it mean for you to check that box?
Invest would be like anything that I'm investing my time into the hunting or conservation. Or so if I'm on Onyx looking at a new area, or even looking in the areas that I already know, just looking for something new, or investing time in some new gear, or investing time in RMEF, or going out and picking up pop cans on the side of the road up in the mountains, just cleaning up, investing my time trying to make myself better in the hunting world.
The training side, what was your training? What did that look like for you this year? Like, just for context, Josh Katanik logged 150 days. Rich Mays logged 131 days. So in that category, those guys, logged significantly more than the 41 that you logged. But what does those training days look like for you, and what does it mean for you to tick one of those boxes?
Just like doing something out of my normal, like, did I go run the hill up at my parents' house, or did I do at-home workout or something to better my physical ability above what I do every single day, outside of work or whatever. And like you said, I didn't always click the box when I did, forget about it, or did one late at night and, forgot about it when I got home or whatever. So that's why that one's lacking a little more than the other 2.
Hey, well, you and I have some plans at the end of this year, and all I got to say is let's make sure that train box gets picked a couple more times before we set out on the adventure we have in store. All right, shoot, 184. In the methods of taking your application, said you used a muzzle loader this year and you used a rifle this year. Do you own a bow? Do you use a bow?
I do own a bow, and some of those days are shooting a bow. I have access to a 20-yard indoor range here, 10 minutes from my house. So kind of one of them deals where if it's raining or whatever, I can run over there and just get a couple reps in. Might want to go shoot a turkey or something with my bow. So I always try to stay somewhat, make sure it's dialed in. Might find the perfect bear in a unit that I can sneak up and kill it with my bow. So I always try to stay somewhat well-rounded with my bow.
Do you carry the bow in the truck ever?
I was going to some this fall, but by the time I have all my other gear in there, plus throw a bow case in there, it's pretty crowded. I definitely want to pick up my bow more this coming year. I want to put some more marks under my belt with killing something with a bow. So,
Well, I am definitely not going to hold the not using a bow against you because what you do with a rifle, there are very few people that can hold a candle to what you do and the amount of work that you put in. People can get onto you because you're maybe not a jack of all trades, but it's like, but you're an ace in something, and that's a special thing, and that takes a level of dedication that a lot of people don't have. And so when I look at that 180, the only one that beat that of the 3 finalists is Rich Mays. He logged 219 days, but that's part of his rhythm and routine. When he comes home from work, grabs the bow, goes out to the backyard, fires arrows. He's a part of an archery league. The guy is firing his bow day in and day out. So, and I think that's pretty accessible when you can just do that in your backyard. So logging
right.
those days is a little easier than especially knowing that probably over 150 of the days that you logged are actually shooting a rifle. Talk to me about your shooting habits and what you did this year.
I got a spot. It's about 20 minutes from my house. I can shoot anywhere from 100 to 1,100 yards. So I just run up there, even in the evening for maybe 20 minutes. I can just bomb up there, throw the gun down, get a couple reps in at different yardages. I try to train like how I'm going to be hunting. I don't just pull a bench out and shoot off the bench all the time. I really
Yeah.
don't ever shoot off the bench unless I'm tuning in a load or trying to build a load. I try to shoot in real scenarios, not always in the flattest comfortable position, because that's one thing about, when you find an animal, there may not be a perfectly flat landing or a perfectly flat rock to shoot off of. So I try to put myself in weird positions so that way I can practice. So that way, when I do get an opportunity, an animal, I'm prepared more for it than if I just shoot off a bench all the time or just
Yep.
shoot off the bed of the truck or whatever.
So I think practicing real world hunting conditions is always super important. All right, I could dive into data and we could spend our whole time talking about the data that you logged this year inside the app. But what does it mean to you to be the outdoorsman of the year? And what do you think the judges should be looking for when they award this to one of these hunters?
What it would mean to me is just cherry on top of a really good season, well-rounded season. Maybe not the most successful for me filling tags, but just helping others fill tags, being a good conservationist, being a good community member inside the Hunt League app, a well-rounded outdoorsman, somebody that's going out of their way to help others and do more than just going out and just killing things. I could fill every single tag in my pocket if I really wanted to every single year, but I usually try to set goals for myself. This year I wanted to help others more. My wife's stepdad should have drawn like a big 3 tag here in Oregon rifle. And so I didn't really do much out of state stuff because of that, because I wanted to go and help him, kill a once in a lifetime bull. And so I mainly just focused. I'm like, all right, I can just focus on local stuff. I can just help people around, locally that always ask for my help, but I'm usually out of state hunting or got something other big plan that I can't just drop and help them. So that's really what I did this year, was just kind of focused on helping other people.
We saw that all throughout your season. You helped quite a few people. It's always going to be hard to compete with a Josh Dishman who's out there every weekend taking somebody. But I mean, you did your fair share and at least held your own against somebody like a Josh Dishman when it came to blacktail hunting this year. I mean, you got after it and you helped Tia get one. You helped your wife get one. It was pretty special to watch some of that stuff unfold. All right. In your application, you kind of wrote, here's 2 of the things that made this year really special for me. One was waiting 19 years and finally drawing a pronghorn tag. That's pretty special. And then 2, you said, and probably the highlight of your year was actually helping your wife get the biggest buck that she's ever shot to date. You kind of listed those as 2. So walk me through a little bit of those stories and what those stories meant to you this year. Why were those experiences so special?
The pronghorn was just special because it's kind of here in Oregon. It's not a normal, just over the counter. You got to wait 19, 20 years. So it's not something that just pops up all the time. I mean, I could go to Wyoming or Colorado, but pronghorn hunting hasn't always been real high on my list because I thought like half the time you shoot at them and they run towards you, and it's like, man, these animals aren't very smart. But when you get out there in the wide open desert with them and it's just you and them, it's like, okay, they're a little smarter than I thought. Just being there with my wife, having her along with me, and just being in an area I'd never been. I had Kurt kind of helping me, but he wasn't always right there with me. He kind of went and did some other stuff while we were scouting the day before. So I found my own pronghorn, glassing, and stuff like that. So I was able to more or less put it all together myself with a little bit of help from Kurt, and then with my wife in tow was just an awesome experience.
Yeah, and you dealt with a little bit of weather conditions on that, as well as right there at the end when it was now or never, all of a sudden another hunter appeared on the horizon. So talk us through a little bit of the adversity you faced on that hunt.
Yeah, the weather was like not something you experience in August, September in the middle of the desert. The first day we were there, it was like 40 degrees. We were all bundled up, glassing, like cold, windy. And then the next day, the sun came out for a little bit, and then you could just see the black wall monsoon shower coming. Got monsooned on. Like the weather was just crazy, crazy, crazy. We thought we were going to be able to do like some long range, maybe kill one at over 1,000 or something like that. But it was like with the weather, like that was out of the question. So it was a sneak up, get close, couple 100-yard deal, which I didn't mind. I just wanted to kill a good, respectable goat. There wasn't a lot of other hunters where we were because we were in a side by side, but we were miles and miles and miles from any kind of main road. It was an hour side by side ride at 40, 50 miles an hour back in where we were. So we were quite a ways from civilization. There was a few other guys out there on four wheelers, but
Well, tell me
they
about the final hunt and what happened kind of in the final moments, because I think that was you had a failed stock and then a stressful finale.
I sneak up on the goat within 200 yards. The does spotted me. I've kind of noticed once they take off, they run for quite a ways, from the antelope we had been watching, that they didn't really stop and take a second look like a deer or an elk does sometimes. So I just kind of rushed my shot, kind of just free handed a couple hundred yards, not really prepared for what was about to happen. And so I missed, shot over them. I put
You
a
don't
little
hear
bit of
that very much from you, like you missed. That's not something that is a common word. So I'm glad that you admitted to it live so that other people know you're actually human.
Well, it was kind of one of them things that I never really practiced, like a quick rush, 200 yards offhand. Like you got a split second. It's something I never practiced. I'm not really sure you can practice it to be better at it. And so I blew that stock, and they kind of ran over into the basin that I spotted them from the night before. So I circled back around the mountain, and Kurt said, "Hey, just walk right up on this little knoll right here and just see what you can see." And you could actually see both the basins from right there, the one I just shot at it in, plus the one that they went into. So I get up there and I'm looking, and pretty soon he's kind of off to my left a little ways, and he says, "Hey, it's right there. It's coming back towards us." And I'm like, "What?" Here comes, and I'm looking for like a whole herd of antelope, because there was 15 or 20 of them, and I'm looking for him like a whole herd. Well, it's just the buck, and he's about 35 yards away from this little road that we came in on. And here's a white side by side sitting like at the top of the road. So I'm like, "Oh crap!" And he's about 500 yards from us at this point. And he's coming and he's clipping along like he's not running, but he's walking fast. And so I told my wife, like, I got to get to that antelope before those guys see it, because where they were, they could have probably killed it no problem. They were probably only 400 yards from it. And so I took off running like dead sprint out across this rocky little outcropping thing, ran probably 200 yards. And about that time, there's like a ridge that split the two basins, and that antelope was getting just to the top of it. And he seen me running out across this, but I was just giving it my all, like it's now or never. So I threw the bipod down, one MOA of adjustment in the carnivore, and just about the time he went to step over the ridge, I shot, and it. I didn't think I hit it again, because it, like, I was thinking with the carnivore it should have just dropped him right there in
Blown
his
it
track.
up.
Well, it didn't, and it kind of did like a little circle, and my wife was about 40 yards behind me, and she says, "Did you get it?" And I kind of looked back at her and then looked back at the antelope, and he had like catapulted straight up in the air and then just fell over. And I'm like, "Yeah, I think I got it."
A little bit of a delayed gratification on that. Like I think I got it. That's pretty fun. Okay, for the sake of brevity, I mean, we gotta fly through this. Give me the hunt with your wife, because you mentioned that as kind of maybe your second biggest highlight.
So we were getting towards the end of the season. I kind of went back to one of the areas that me and my dad used to blacktail hunt all the time. Knew that there were some big bucks always in that area, but the deer numbers have always been kind of low up there. So it was kind of like, all right, let's just go give it a try. Like, it's probably our best option to kill a big, respectable blacktail. With Tia killing that buck earlier in the season, my wife was kind of bummed that she didn't get to shoot it, but she wasn't like heartbroken, because she knew that she would still kill a good, respectable blacktail. And I told her, I said, "I will find you a bigger buck. Like, I don't care what it takes. I will find you a bigger one." And so she was
That's actually a
ragging
pretty
on.
hard challenge, because Tia's buck
Yeah,
was pretty dang nice.
I was up for the challenge, and like I literally would glass until my eyeballs were about red. Like, I got real sensitive eyes to the sun, so like 20, 30 minutes of glassing, no matter what kind of binos they are, like my eyeballs start to burn, and I got to wear sunglasses all the time. And so I just glass and glass and glass until I couldn't take it anymore, and then I'd glass some more even when I didn't want to. So I got the blacktail, and so we went back to this area, and it was kind of slow in the morning, and I just glassed up in one open burn, just a real small pocket, meadowy type of thing. Bunch of windfall down trees in it, thinking there ain't no way a buck's in there, but I'll glass it anyways. It's getting like towards the middle of the day. I got my dad with me, he's glassing, and I got the two kids and my wife with me. So like the 4 runners packed full, and I'm glassing out the window of the rig and I spot movement in this meadow. And I'm like, there's a deer. So I get out with my spot and scope. There's your buck, Courtney. And she's like, what? And I'm like, that's your buck right there. And so I ranged it, and it was 1,240 something yards away. And I'm like,
Phew.
that's too far. Like, we got the equipment to do it, but I want to make sure we kill this thing. I'm like, we can get up. Like, there's a little rock outcropping that popped out like halfway in between us. And I'm like, we're going to get on that rock outcropping and I'll glass it up again and we'll get it killed. So we get up there and I can't find it. Took me like over an hour to glass it up. And the only reason why I did was because he moved his head, like shaking his head from the flies, and I caught the horn movement.
Oh my gosh.
He's literally bedded in this group of like windfalled trees, and all you can see is his head and his horns. And the only reason why I even seen it was because he moved. Like if he wouldn't have moved at all, I would have gave up. And so I got the gun set up for her, and I even set a gun up myself because I was like, I want to make sure like when this thing stands up, like my dad was there to spot. So I'm like, we're gonna throw 2 guns down. I want to make sure we kill this thing because I was thinking it was like a 140 class blacktail, which is
Yeah, some
I
really big blacktail.
yeah. So we're laying there, and my wife, I told her, I said, you just stay in the gun because as soon as it stands up, like I don't even care if I'm standing here, just kill it. I knew she was capable. It was 645 yards, like chip shot for both of us. I'm like entertaining the kids and like getting other stuff to make sure like she's comfortable because she laid there behind the gun for probably 45 minutes to an hour, and my daughter was actually like sleeping most of the time. Well, she kind of got up and she's like a busybody. Like she's got to be doing something when she's awake. She's kind of like me. Like she can't just sit still. She's got to be doing something. So I'm like trying to keep her entertained for like the last 20 minutes of the deal. And finally, I told my wife she was hungry. We hadn't really planned to like be out all day. And it was getting close to lunchtime. Like we were camped up there. And so I was like, all right, it's kind of now or never because my daughter's super rambunctious, starting to get kind of cranky because she's hungry. And I'm like, all right, here's the deal. We can either leave and go get him some food and come back and hope he's still here this evening, or you can shoot it in the head. She's like, I think I can hit it in the head. So I'm like, all right,
No.
if you think you're capable, let me whistle first a few times just to see if it would stand up. And like the deer didn't know we were there. Like he would kind of glance over, like he maybe caught our movement, kind of moving around once in a while. So I whistle like pretty loud, so he locks in on it. And I'm like, all right, he's going to get up. Never gets up. So I whistle again. Same thing. Like he's locked in and his ears are forward. And I'm like, he's going to get up. Just be patient. Would not get up. So finally, I'm like, all right, just hold it like a little bit below his jaw line and just see what happens. Like you're either going to hit it or it won't. So I get behind my gun and she shoots and just smokes it right in the head. So
Oh my gosh. That is crazy. You guys and your shooting is out of this world. 600 and something yards making that shot. That's pretty dang impressive, especially getting to do those things with your family. That's one of the things I always appreciate when I've seen a lot of your posts from this year. You know, it's your wife, it's your kids, it's friends, it's people around, and I know that means a lot to you. And you spent a lot of time this year trying to help people fill their tags.
And I just want people to know I would take that kind of shot, but like that's not like a normal like thing that we do. So
Going for headshots, yeah.
yeah, going for headshot. It's not the most ideal situation, but being prepared and knowing that you can aim small, miss small. So
Yeah, it's also not ideal though when you have young kids and you got a lot of other factors going on. So I think you gave us good context for what that opportunity was. You had one opportunity to kind of make it happen. I mean, your choices in that scenario is like, do you want to send a shot across the canyon to just get it to stand up? But I'm like, I think at that point, it might even be a wildlife violation for like harassing game or something, forcing them to move with your own
yeah.
movement. So I think you did probably the most ethical thing that you could have done in that situation, knowing you had really, I mean, for a lot of people, that's a once in a lifetime blacktail that they'll ever have an opportunity at. So I think you made the most of it.
Then the other part of that hunt was I took my kids all the way down. I literally put my daughter in my backpack and packed her all the way down to the deer. And most of the time, I had my son in my other arms because the windfalls were so bad he couldn't get over them. Plus, trying to help my wife get over the windfalls. So, and then
And how remind us how old your kids are?
my daughter's 4 and my son's 6, so they're just old enough to get around on flat ground on their own, much less out in the rugged terrain. So I
Yeah.
literally cut up the deer hole or quartered it up, put it all the whole thing on my pack and packed it out. Plus half the time packed my son or my daughter. So it was just a good all around family memory, having my dad there, my wife, and my 2 kids. So
All right, let me dive into some of these stats though. So we did an activity count, and there's multiple kind of activities. When somebody downloads the HuntLeague app, they push the go button. You can choose like, is this a hunt, a scout? Are you just tagging along? Are you a guide outfitter? Are you mentoring somebody? Are you just going as a caller? Are you a pack mule, just helping somebody haul something out? So you can kind of log each of those types of experiences. When it came to 2024, you logged 53 hunts, 18 scouts, 11 tagalongs, 7 guide outfitter. I know you're not doing that as a professional, but that was you intentionally taking people out, kind of acting as a guide, for a total of 89 different hunt logs that you created in 2024. For perspective, the other 2 guys collectively wouldn't have 89 together. Joshua Katanik still put in a ton of time, but logged 26 hunts, scouts, that kind of thing. Rich Mays had 29 total. So, I mean, a total of 89. There's no question that you put in the work in the field. In total, when you add everything up from all of your hunt activities to your success points, to your events, to the number of days, to the community, to everything, you came out as the number 1 person on our HuntLeague leaderboard. Like, the amount of work, the volume of work that you put in this year puts you at the very top of the leaderboard. And that's compared to Katanik, who came in at 7th overall on the leaderboard. And your score actually doubles Katanik's volume of work. And I'll give him a little bit of grace. He had an excellent year, and that's not to take anything away from him. He had a baby this year. His volume definitely went down as far as how many days he could be in the field. But he also got to hunt some species that you and I dream of hunting. Like when the question, the application was, if you could trade seasons with anybody inside the HuntLeague app, you actually put Katanik's season. And it's really because probably his moose hunt that he was able to do in Idaho.
absolutely.
That would be a dream. What are some of the conservation work that you're putting in? Because we know that every year that's a big thing for the judges.
I mainly spend most of my time kind of just devoting my time to one organization rather than just giving a little bit of time to several different ones like some people do, which is great. I devote most of my time to Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. We have a local chapter here in Roseburg. Me and my family, my mom, my dad, my sister, brother-in-law, her 2 boys, my family, like we travel all around the state, and my family is capable of like running a whole entire banquet just with us. So like most of the people here in the state know that. So like they'll call up and be like, "Hey, we need a handful of hands. Like, get up here. We need some help." And like we jump in the car Saturday morning and we bomb. I mean, we went far as Lakeview last year. Like my parents.
How far is Lakeview? Give me context.
Oh, Lakeview's 4 hours like
Okay.
from my house.
And now give me context for this, because you do a couple banquets, but like, I don't even know how many banquets they would have in the state of Oregon, because you obviously have regions and different chapters of RMEF. But how many of those types of activities do you think you participated in 2024?
We did 6 banquets alone, and then there's other little events like we put on a couple of different raffles, like just getting out selling raffle tickets. So I'm gonna say close to 10 events.
That's a lot more than I did. So I'm going to congratulate you significantly for the work that you're doing there. And I know those banquets are super important for the fundraising and the things that go in. Why Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation? What is it about that organization that you believe in?
I just like that a lot of their money, the Oregon money, stays in Oregon. A little bit does go back to headquarters, but a lot of it goes back into Habitat Project. A lot of people criticize them because they don't get in like on the Second Amendment 114 deal here in Oregon that was a couple years ago, but they'll give money to people that like have a better knowledge of what exactly we need to be, the stand on, rather than just come out and like more or less waste their money on something they know nothing about, or like the wolf problem here in Oregon. Like they'll give money to an organization that has like a better understanding of what exactly needs to be done. So their name isn't always out there on a lot of like stuff, but they just finished a huge project in Minam, like opening it back up to public access to where people can walk in and hunt and Before, it was a big chunk of land that a property owner owned, and he never let anybody hunt on it. And RMEF has spent the last 10 years trying to get that opened back up. And last year, that was a big project. They did the same thing about 10 years ago on the headwaters of the John Day, getting that opened back up to the public. So
It's a big deal.
my dad was a state chair for him. And so I've always just kind of focused my time with them. I've went to OHA banquets and stuff like that, but just kind of focused my time mainly on them. The people in the RMEF community are great. A lot of them became family.
I 100% agree. I'm a member of Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. I think it's a phenomenal organization. One thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is how comprehensive their work is, that their work isn't exclusively to benefit elk. Like, obviously elk is a priority, and that's kind of what the name and the banner sake is. But the conservation work that they're doing, it benefits countless other species, and how they've set up with a lot of landowners to be able to put land in these big ranches into conservation easements, that there won't be new roads, there won't be new development, because they're trying to keep large spaces so that elk and large spaces of habitat and connected spaces of habitat, so that these animals can really thrive and continue to be present on the landscape for years and years and years to come.
I think we're up to 9 million acres conserved. That's a huge chunk of land that was once locked up that we've gained. People may, some people disagree that you can't drive in there, but it's still a public access compared to before it wasn't, so.
Yeah, and not all of their ranches and stuff becomes public, but what they've done too is they've secured where ranches aren't going to get broken up in the future, which is critical for, breeding grounds and safety. Because maybe if there's a ton of pressure, even in an area, like elk still need a sanctuary and a place to go where they can rest, recover, and survive through the harshest months. Because right on the heels of hunting pressure comes the hardest part of the winter, where food is low, temperatures are low, and they're just fighting to survive.
Right. Yep, for sure.
I know we could go on. So one of my favorite things was your story with Tia, which I don't think we really even have time to dive into. I wanted to kind of keep these in that 30-40 minute range. But if somebody wants to go into the Hunt League app and look at some of the body of work, what is your username? It's Brandon338, correct?
Yep.
So if you were to go to the community page, type in Brandon338 in the search, it's going to pull up quite a bit of your hunt logs from last year. People can kind of get a better understanding of some of the things that you did. I know you'll have more stories to tell the judges when you face them in the live panel. Is there anything that you want to say, leave with the Hunt League community as you go into the finals? Any last words?
Not really anything. I think most people have seen my face enough now that they kind of know what I'm about, and know that I like helping other people just as much as I like killing stuff myself. I've been very blessed to be raised in a hunting family. I think I was probably 5 years old the first time I was with my dad. He killed an elk, started from there, and I've been on lots of elk hunts with him ever since. And then killed my first elk when I was 10. I think I'm up to 13 bull elk. So.
So that's quite a few. And you're 32 years old, for context.
32.
There you go. Well, I know last year you were one of the people right on the bubble. Like, you didn't make it into the top 3. And to a lot of people's utter surprise, and how did that happen? On the heels of that, you ended up winning Deer of the Year. You made an incredible offhand shot. I know we recorded a podcast kind of talking through some of the stuff about your deer season. But this year is your first year in the finals. Some people might be like, well, you have a relationship, Jared, with all these hunters. And it's like, well, the only reason why I have a relationship with these hunters is because you show up every day inside the Hunt League app, and I'm pinging you with questions and congratulating you on this or that. But I'm not going to hide anything either, that you and I are actively making plans to do an elk hunt together this fall. There are 3 finalists. I hunted with Rich 2 years ago. I'm in active talks with him about coming out here. Josh is the only one that I'm not actively talking to about doing a hunt, and that's really just because the season of life that he's in as a firefighter, as a family man, having just a young baby. But it won't surprise me that at some point I will have hunted in person with the 3 of you guys because the adventures that you guys go on and the kind of experiences that we share, you guys are the kind of people that I love spending time with. I know you're a serious outdoorsman. I know that this is not something you just wake up and a weekend warrior like, man, I just happened to go out and got real lucky. It's like you're putting in the work every day, whether it's reloading stuff at your house, shooting at the range, working out, doing the invest, taking other people. The whole story with Tia, taking somebody that really didn't know how to shoot a rifle, taking her out, getting a 4x4 blacktail, all the things that you did this year, the conservation work that you're doing with RMEF. Man, I just applaud you. I think you are one of those guys that, like, any hunter, not just inside the HuntLeague community, any hunter, I think should be able to look at you and the work that you do and say, man, you know, you are setting the bar high. And I think if people follow in your footsteps, the hunting world and hunting community is going to be a better, it's going to be a stronger community. It's a better place. One of the things I've seen you do too, you're not, you don't pick fights. You're willing to jump into a conversation, but you will jump on somebody if they are picking a fight for nonsense, you know, because it's like, hey, we don't need the division that comes with this. And so I really appreciate that about you and how you kind of choose when to jump in and when not to, but you're not out there just instigating garbage for the sake of garbage. You're, calling people out when they need to be called out.
That's the one thing I really like about the Hunt League community. It's just a bunch of everybody's super helpful. It doesn't really matter, what you're where you're at in the hunting. I would say I'm probably a little more experienced than a lot of people. You got a guy like Dishman, probably a little more than me, but there's a lot of people on there just getting into hunting, that have a lot of questions. And it's just everybody just gives them good, honest information. Nobody's just blowing smoke or anything, or on there just to puff their chest. That's the bad thing about social media nowadays. There's just so many guys out there just trying to get, a couple likes and a fist bump or whatever, or look at me, I killed a 490-inch elk in some dude's backyard out of a grain bucket. That's one thing that I really enjoy about the Hunt League community. It's just a bunch of well-rounded, and I've made quite a few friends off the app. I've talked to Cody and Bradley, and I've talked to Thomas a little bit, and Colby Moorhead, and all those guys. The On Point experience was super fun meeting all those people, and it's just an awesome app. If you're not joined up, get joined up because it's a lot of fun. Just I've seen some new people. I seen a guy. I kind of know him from social media. I don't really know him, but I seen that he killed a cow. I didn't even know he was on the Hunt League community. I think his name's Tyler or something like that. I've seen.
Oh yeah, he just recently posted something.
He's from Roseburg, and I mean, it's just kind of cool that seeing new people hop on there and be part of it.
It's transformed from just a social media community to, like, these are the guys that I call and I'm planning hunts with, and that's been really fun. And apparently, guys inside the HuntLeague community have really good style wearing these Huxworks hats. That wasn't a planned thing, but it's pretty fun showing up on the same thing and representing Hux. So they're a part of the Outdoorsman of the Year with their Ventum 762. I don't think you own one of those, do you, Brandon?
I don't yet. I need one though.
Fingers crossed, it could be here in a couple weeks.
I pick a hat at the beginning of the year, and I got an Old Faithful hat that every time I wear it, I kill something. And my wife, she'll say, well, you got to wear your killing hat. And I'm like, nope, I'm not burning it up today. It's only got so many good days left in it. So this was my hat this year that I killed a lot of animals in. So I thought about just throwing it on.
All right, keep it strong. Keep it strong all the way to the finish line. Let's see if it gets you the title, because only one will wear that crown at the end of the year as the 2024 Outdoorsman of the Year. So thanks for jumping on, doing this interview. I'm excited to share this with the judges inside the community too, just letting people get to know you a little bit better. So we'll hear from Rich and Joshua over the next couple days. After that, we'll schedule the live interview probably sometime the end of January, early February. So much of that is just wrangling the judges because they're all out at trade shows. You've got SHOT Show coming up next week. We've got Western Hunt Expo early February. You've got Sheep Show. You've got Great American Outdoor Show in Pennsylvania. So they're extremely busy. Timing for this, It's like, hey, we just finished the year, so we want to get it done at the beginning of the year. Timing couldn't be worse for the different companies that are standing on as our judges, but we're going to make it work. So stay tuned. Thanks for joining us. If you're listening to the podcast and listen to Brandon's story, that's one of 3. We've got 2 more coming. Excited to go and share the whole process with you and see who comes out on top. So thanks, Brandon. Congratulations on your 2024 season, regardless of what happens as we go into the finals. You had an incredible year, and I think everybody inside the HuntLeague community really looks up to you as one of the leaders. So appreciate you and everything you've brought to this community.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good luck to the other contestants.